Deep within the heart of Whispering Pines Forest, there existed a dark secret hidden from the eyes of mankind. For generations, the locals had shared chilling tales of a malevolent creature that roamed the woods, a being that emerged only in the shroud of night, seeking to torment anyone who dared to enter its realm. They called it the Phantom of Whispering Pines. One gloomy evening, under a heavy rain-laden sky, a brave soul named Alex ventured into the heart of Whispering Pines Forest. The stories of the phantom had always intrigued them, and they were determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of determination, Alex set out to explore the enigmatic woods. The forest was dense with ancient trees, their gnarled branches intertwined like skeletal fingers. The thick canopy above allowed only the faintest trickle of light to penetrate, casting shadows on the forest floor. As the sky darkened, the air grew heavy with an unnatural silence, broken only by the hushed whisper of the wind through the leaves. The forest stillness only fueled Alex's curiosity as they delved deeper into the undergrowth. The uneven path was overgrown, and thorns clawed at their clothing, leaving trails of blood in their wake. The beam of the flashlight revealed twisted, gnarled roots that seemed to reach out, as if warning Alex to turn back. Despite the ominous atmosphere, Alex pressed forward. The tales of the phantom were a mere catalyst for their insatiable desire for the unknown. As the night deepened, the forest appeared to shift and twist, the trees closing in around them as if forming an impenetrable barrier. It was in the heart of Whispering Pines that Alex found a small, dilapidated cabin, hidden amidst the ancient trees. It was said to be the lair of the phantom, and Alex was determined to uncover its secrets. The cabin's wooden door was ajar, and with a deep breath they pushed it open. Inside, the cabin was a scene of disarray. Broken furniture, rotting curtains, and cobwebs clung to every surface. The air was stagnant and heavy with a rancid odor. As Alex explored further, they found a weathered journal on a decaying wooden desk. The journal spoke of the phantom, a creature born of darkness, a manifestation of ancient curses and forgotten rituals. The entries detailed how the locals had long ago sealed the creature within the depths of the forest, hoping to confine it to their nightmares forever. However, it was a curse that had merely slumbered, waiting for an unwitting soul to awaken it. The last page of the journal contained a warning, urging any who read it to flee the forest before nightfall, lest they become the unwitting catalyst for the phantom's resurgence. Alex's heart raced as they read the ominous words, but they were determined to uncover the truth. Ignoring the warning, they ventured further into the forest, driven by an insatiable need to unravel the enigma of the phantom. The forest grew denser, the shadows more menacing, and the silence seemed to deepen. As the moon reached its zenith, Alex's flashlight flickered, casting uncertain light on the gnarled trees. Panic surged through them as the flashlight died, leaving them in darkness. The forest seemed to come alive, the trees whispering in an unknown tongue, and Alex heard the phantom of approaching footsteps. The creature, an amalgamation of darkness and malice, emerged from the shadows. Its form shifted and swirled, a grotesque, ever-changing silhouette. It drew closer, its malevolent presence suffocating. Alex stumbled backward in terror, their heart pounding in their chest. With a spine-chilling shriek, the phantom lunged forward, its shadowy tendrils reaching out like vipers. Alex's screams echoed through the forest as the creature enveloped them, dragging them into the abyss of Whispering Pines. Story 2. Nestled deep within the heart of the Whispering Woods lay an ancient, abandoned mansion known as the Forsaken Manor. It was a place of dread, surrounded by legends and superstitions. Locals whispered tales of its haunting history, where a once prominent family met a tragic end. The Forsaken Manor was said to be cursed, its halls echoing with the tormented souls of the past. On a moonless night under the thick canopy of trees, a solitary figure approached the mansion. Her name was Emily, a young woman with a penchant for the macabre. Her fascination with the supernatural had drawn her to the Forsaken Manor, and she was determined to unravel its mysteries. Armed with a lantern and a journal, she ventured forward into the inky darkness. The mansion's gates creaked open, and Emily's lantern illuminated the overgrown path, revealing thorny vines and twisted trees that seemed to reach for her like skeletal fingers. A silence enveloped the area as if the very air held its breath. Emily continued her journey, her heart pounding in her chest. The front doors of the mansion groaned open, revealing an entrance hall that was once grand but now lay in ruin. Cracked marble floors and shattered chandeliers greeted her, and shadows danced on the walls like restless spirits. Her lantern's feeble light created a flickering, ghostly effect. As Emily explored further, she discovered a library with tattered, rotting books. Some were barely readable, containing cryptic accounts of the Forsaken Manor's dark past. It was said that the family had practiced forbidden rituals, and in their desperation, they made a pact with a malevolent force. Undeterred by the stories, Emily pressed on. She ascended a majestic staircase, each step groaning as if protesting her intrusion. On the second floor, she found a corridor with countless closed doors. She hesitated, then chose one at random. Inside, a bedroom awaited, frozen in time. A 4-poster bed draped with cobwebs, a vanity covered in dust, and a shattered mirror that reflected Emily as a ghostly, distorted figure. Emily sensed something amiss. The room felt alive, as if it pulsed with an invisible energy. Turning to leave, the door slammed shut with a resounding crash. Panic surged through Emily as she struggled to open it, but it refused to budge. The room itself seemed to close in around her, the walls drawing nearer and the air growing colder. She heard faint whispers, words that sent shivers down her spine. Terrified, Emily finally forced the door open, stumbling back into the corridor. Her lantern flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. She felt an oppressive presence behind her, a malevolence that radiated hatred and cruelty. Whispers filled the air, growing louder and more coherent, though their meaning remained cryptic. Frantic, Emily ran down the corridor, her footsteps echoing erratically. The walls seemed to ripple and twist, and the whispers turned into chilling laughter. She burst into the entry hall, where shattered chandeliers cast grotesque, dancing shadows. Desperation gripped her as she pushed open the front doors and fled into the night. Story 3. In a quiet, forgotten corner of the small town of Willowbrook, there stood a decaying mansion, its once grand facade now crumbling under the weight of time. It was known as the O'Donnell House, and it had been abandoned for decades, its dark history shrouded in mystery. The townspeople whispered stories of a curse that had plagued the O'Donnell family for generations, tales of unexplained disappearances and tragic deaths. The mansion was a place of legend, but few dared to venture near it, let alone enter its ominous doors. However, curiosity can be a powerful motivator, and it drew one brave soul into the shadow of the mansion on a moonless night. Her name was Sarah, a young woman with a fascination for the supernatural and an unquenchable thirst for adventure. She had heard the tales of the O'Donnell house and couldn't resist the allure of its dark secrets. Armed with a flashlight and a backpack filled with supplies, she approached the mansion cautiously. The front gate groaned as she pushed it open, and Sarah's heart pounded as she stepped onto the overgrown path. Weeds and thorns clawed at her legs, and the chilling wind whispered scary melodies through the surrounding trees. She reached the front doors and pushed them open with an echoing creak. The entry hall was grand but shrouded in darkness, with an elaborate chandelier that dangled ominously overhead. Sarah's flashlight cast long, wavering shadows that danced around her. Her footsteps echoed through the cavernous space as she explored further. Paintings of stern-faced O'Donnell ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following her every move. She ventured deeper into the mansion, her footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. She found herself in a dusty library, its shelves lined with decaying books. The pages crumbled beneath her touch as she leafed through them, revealing tales of the O'Donnell family's curse. It was said that the mansion was built upon an ancient burial ground, and that the spirits of the restless dead still roamed its halls. Undeterred by the stories, Sarah continued her exploration, determined to uncover the truth. She ascended a grand staircase, each step protesting her intrusion with a haunting creak. On the second floor, she discovered a long corridor lined with numerous closed doors. She hesitated for a moment, then chose one at random and opened it. Inside, she found a bedroom frozen in time, a canopy bed with tattered curtains, a vanity covered in dust, and a cracked mirror that seemed to reflect more than just her image. As she inspected the room, Sarah felt a sudden chill, as if an unseen presence had entered. Turning to leave, the door slammed shut with a resounding crash. Sarah's heart raced as she struggled to open it, but it was as if the door had become one with the wall. Panic set in as her flashlight flickered. casting long shadows on the wallpaper which seemed to twist and writhe like a living entity. Sarah's trembling hands finally managed to open the door, and she stumbled out into the corridor. Her flashlight sputtered and died, plunging her into darkness. She felt a presence behind her, something unseen and malevolent. Whispers filled the air, and the cold breath of an otherworldly force caressed her neck. In blind terror, she ran down the corridor, her footsteps echoing and disjointed. The walls seemed to close in on her, and the whispers grew louder, forming words that were incomprehensible yet filled with dread. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she fled the nightmare that had overtaken her. She burst into the entry hall where the chandelier now swung wildly, casting dark, shifting patterns of light and shadow. With a final burst of strength, she pushed open the heavy front doors and stumbled out into the night. The mansion loomed behind her, its dark windows filled with secrets that would never be revealed. Sarah had escaped, but she was forever changed. She bore the weight of a horror she could never forget. The memory of a room that existed outside the realm of the living. A room that should have remained forever locked. Story 4. In the heart of a remote ancient forest shrouded in darkness and mystery, there lived a man known to the locals as the Woodsman. He was a solitary figure, his face hidden beneath a tangle of unkempt hair and a scraggly beard. He dwelled in a small, ramshackle cabin far from the closest town, surrounded by towering trees and a persistent air of dread. The townsfolk told creepy tales of the Woodsman, stories passed down through generations, describing him as a guardian of the woods, a man who had forged a sinister alliance with the forest's malevolent spirits. They said he could speak to the trees and command the animals to do his bidding. The forest, they whispered, was his domain, and anyone who ventured too close to his cabin would suffer a fate worse than death. Curiosity, however, can be a powerful motivator, and one evening, a young adventurer named Mark decided to seek out the Woodsman. Armed with a lantern and a sense of determination, he ventured into the dark and foreboding woods, determined to uncover the truth behind the tales. The forest's thick canopy cast long, twisted shadows that danced eerily in the lantern light. Mark's footsteps were the only sound to break the silence, and he could feel the weight of the woods pressing in on him, as if the very trees were watching his every move. As Mark ventured deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to close in around him, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. He stumbled through the underbrush, the brambles tearing at his clothing and skin, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. Yet he pressed on, driven by an unshakable determination to find the Woodsman. The tales of the Woodsman had always fascinated Mark, and he had heard countless stories of the strange happenings in the forest. The birds that sang melancholy songs, the trees that whispered secrets in the dead of night, and the shadows that moved with a sinister purpose. It was said that the Woodsman had unlocked the secrets of the forest's darkest corners, and Mark was determined to discover them for himself. After hours of trudging through the dense woods, Mark stumbled upon the Woodsman's cabin. It was a decrepit, ramshackle structure, with walls adorned with strange symbols and twisted vines. The air around the cabin felt heavy, as if it bore the weight of untold secrets. The door was slightly ajar, inviting Mark inside. Upon entering, Mark found himself in a dark room, its walls lined with an array of peculiar mystical artifacts. He could see intricate masks, weathered tomes filled with cryptic incantations, and taxidermy animals that seemed to leer at him with glassy, lifeless eyes. The atmosphere was stifling, and Mark's heart pounded with both fear and curiosity. As Mark explored further, he discovered a journal filled with the Woodsman's unsettling musings. The journal spoke of an ancient pact between the Woodsman and the forest's malevolent spirits, an alliance forged in blood and darkness. It described rituals performed under the blood-red moon, where the woods came alive with mystic, unnatural sounds. Undeterred by the discoveries, Mark continued his exploration. He ascended a rickety staircase, its creaking protestations adding to the sense of foreboding. On the upper floor, he found a door slightly ajar, and pushed it open to reveal a room unlike any other. Inside, the room was bathed in an otherworldly, sinister light. The walls seemed to pulse with life, covered in a strange, undulating pattern. In the center of the room, a massive ancient tree had taken root. Its gnarled branches reached out like skeletal limbs, and its bark bore intricate, glowing symbols. As Mark approached, the tree's bark parted to reveal a hollow cavity, and within that cavity lay a heart, pulsing with an unnatural crimson light. Mark felt a pull, a compulsion to touch the heart, to understand its secrets. With trembling hands, he reached out and touched the pulsating heart. And in that moment, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the forest. The very ground beneath Mark quaked, and the forest itself seemed to come alive, its malevolent spirits awakened. Mark's vision blurred, and he felt himself being pulled into the heart, as if absorbed by the very essence of the forest. The trees whispered secrets, the animals watched with knowing eyes, and Mark's own voice joined the chorus of the wood's haunting song. The legend of the woodsman lived on, a chilling testament to the forest's dark secrets. Those who dared to venture into the heart of the whispering woods were warned of the man who had become one with the forest, a man who had unlocked the very essence of the woods and paid the price in the most horrifying of ways.